Last week, these airstrikes by a Saudi-led coalition killed at least 6 people in northern Yemen. When an ambulance run by Médecins Sans Frontières arrived at the scene, MSF says another airstrike hit the ambulance and killed the driver. The aid agency says at least 40 others were wounded in a wave of attacks. Children were among them. "Will I live or not?" asked this boy. He can't be more than about 12 years old. Which begs the question why British bombs like this one are being dropped. Why the British government approved more than £1 billion worth of British bombs and missiles being sold to Saudi Arabia from last July to September. And Jeremy Corbyn is angry for one.
Coalition forces have conducted airstrikes targeting civilians and civilian objects.
Today he asked the Prime Minister to review and suspend arms sales to the Saudi kingdom.
As the Right Honourable Gentleman knows, we have the strictest rules for arms exports of almost any country anywhere in the world. And let me remind him, we are not a member of the Saudi-led coalition. We're not directly involved in the Saudi-led coalition's operations. British personnel are not involved in carrying out strikes.
Not directly involved, he says, but the government admits British military advisers are in the air campaign's control rooms. And British military advice certainly didn't prevent this attack on an MSF hospital on January the 10th, which the aid agency says killed or injured patients and medical staff. Now a report commissioned by the UN Security Council and obtained by this programme piles the pressure on sales of British arms. The UN's panel of experts says the Saudi-led coalition conducted airstrikes targeting civilians and civilian objects in violation of international humanitarian law, including camps for internally displaced persons and refugees, civilian gatherings, including weddings, civilian vehicles, including buses, civilian residential areas, medical facilities, schools, mosques, markets. On Monday, a judge and 7 members of his family were killed. He had prosecuted members of Al-Qaeda. How killing him has made Britain safer is a hard one to answer.
Stop supplying arms that might be used in the Yemen conflict to any of the parties to the conflict.
And does everyone agree with that answer?
This afternoon, aid agencies on the ground, Safer World, UNICEF, Oxfam, told this Commons committee the attacks were indiscriminate and the flow of weapons had to cease.
I was literally stunned last week to see that the UK had licensed £1 billion of bombs to Saudi Arabia.
The way that the bombing is being conducted, irrespective of if it's a cluster munition or a conventional bomb, is guaranteed to lead to civilian deaths.
But 2 government ministers fought back.
So you're very comfortable with the fact that Saudi Arabia is bombing these areas that we're sending aid to, and those arms have been supplied by the United Kingdom?
The problem,
yes or no?
The problem for the delivery of aid in Yemen is that there is a war on.
Yes.
We are not a party to the war.
You're being naive if you think that Britain cannot sell weapon systems to allies. We are legitimately allowed to do that.
Are you aware that in the 3 months between July and September, £1 billion worth of licences were granted?
We don't just accidentally sell these things on eBay and then suddenly it comes up, oh, there's a sale or not. Every single arms sale across the world is scrutinised.
The government says it's pushing the Saudis to investigate every mistake, that Houthi rebels are killing civilians and waging a propaganda war, and that if Britain did not support the Saudi-led air war, the humanitarian disaster here would be even greater than it now is.